Hello everyone, it's March 4th. It's Tuesday. It's Harp Tuesday. Today we're going to do some regulation. Ha ha ha. We're not actually going to use this, but looks good for the thumbnail potentially. All I'm going to use actually is just this nice little screwdriver, which is going to be perfect. And I wanted to just give you sort of a regulation in action. I know I've done an episode on how to regulate your pedal harp, but I need to do some adjustments on this F string, and I thought, hey, I'll bring you along and we'll do some work together. So what's going on here at the moment is not regulation in terms of it not being in tune, though I'm not sure, it might not be as well. I'm going to check that. But what's happening is if I play this quite strongly and not straight out, but if I've pulled quite far like this, it's hitting off of this side of the discs because it's not quite in the center. The string comes down, it's a little bit to the left instead of being right in the center. So that means as it vibrates, there's a chance if it's vibrating quite strongly, you can see I can pull and it can touch this side quite easily. A little bit harder to touch the other side, so you can hear that rather awful twang as it hits the side. So that's what I'm going to try to fix. I'm going to try to move it so that it's in the center of these discs, at the same time as hopefully making sure that each rotation of the discs moves it a half step up, which is what we want. So the first thing I'm going to do is, and I haven't done this yet, so I just wanted to save it for the episode, is I'm going to check to see what the regulation is currently like, because it might not be perfect. So I'll check again. I'm in tune. Now when I go to natural, will it be F natural? It's sharp. And what is it on F sharp? So in the end, both the natural and the sharp are a little bit sharp at the moment. So another reason to regulate. Now this string is somewhat old. Ideally, when you're doing regulation, you're working with new strings because over time, the strings, there can be sort of indentations created by the action of the discs against the string. I'm going to be replacing these strings in probably about a month, but we're going to use this one for the moment. So in this case, the nice thing is at the moment, these are both kind of equally sharp, because the challenge always is the fact that it's easy to adjust this distance. You can move this bridge pin up and down quite easily, relatively easily, and as well as, of course, adjusting how firmly the pins are gripping. So, for example, if this in this case is too sharp, that's easy to adjust. What's less easy to adjust is the distance between these, because we can't adjust the physical distance, right? We could, in theory, get a slightly larger or smaller disc to do somewhat of that physical distance or bend the pins. But in general, we're just kind of playing with the grip, how tightly it grips, and potentially the position, which is maybe why it ended up here this far over to the left. Okay, so I have that in mind, and I got to move it over this way. What effect that is going to have is that it's going to make it, from where it is, it's going to make it, I think, a little bit sharper if we just move this over this direction, because I think we would have even more string between here and here. And remember, the bigger the distance is here, the sharper this, when we engage this, it makes the note sharper. And it's too sharp to begin with. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to move it, of course, to the right, and then I will also move it down to make it a little bit flat, a little bit flatter, smaller distance between these two. And hopefully then we won't have to mess with this bottom disc. Okay, so I can potentially just pop this out of the bridge pin. There we go. With a bigger string, I would probably have to loosen the string. And if you're doing this a bunch, it's a bit tough on the thumb. My feeling is that in theory, it's a bit gentler on the string, not to loosen and tighten and loosen and tighten. I don't know if that's true. I think not a big deal either way, and I will be replacing this string. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do then is I'm going to loosen these. and I'm going to try and hold this in position so it doesn't move from where it is to start with, and so I can deliberately move it. So I'm going to kind of grip with a thumb here, and then I'm going to loosen maybe from the bottom first, because that's, if the top was loose, I think the bottom, as we loosen it, would tend to move everything. So I'm just going to push in and lefty loosey, righty tighty. So I'm just going to turn to the left. This nice little short-handled screwdriver is perfect. It's quite strong, nice grip on the top. So I'll push in and loosen. There we go. And I'm not going to loosen a ton, but enough that I can move this easily. So I've tried to keep it where it was. Of course, it could get completely lost. Maybe take a visual look at how far up or down it is. So now I'm going to move it down, if I can, a little bit, and then also try to change this angle a little bit. It's not actually a lot of room. Maybe this bottom one needs to be loosened a little bit more. Okay, well, we'll try that. It's all sort of trial and error. So I'll tighten the bottom one first, I think. And righty tighty, lefty loosey. Gently tighten it a little bit there. Get this one in. Oh, having a hard time getting that in. There we go. So I'm pushing into the harp as I tighten, and I'm holding the harp with my left hand so that it doesn't go over as I push. And now I'm going to pop this string in, and we're going to look at that in terms of, is that now more even? I mean, we'll test it here in a second as well. Does that look as if it's going straight down? So maybe a little bit better. Let's try playing it. Of course, the other thing we can do, right, is, so we look here, we see that this is fairly tight. This bottom one could be loosened a little bit, which would mean that this would be up a little bit higher, so it's less possible for it to touch. I think we moved this over as far as we could. Let's just check what the tuning is looking like then. Okay. Bit sharp still. This one's a bit weird. Again, the string needs to be replaced at some point because it kind of has an initial sharp and then it almost wants to go flat. But we don't really have a lot of room to loosen this bottom one because already it's kind of, if anything, it's a little bit flatter than this. So this is sharp. Let's say that this was perfect. This one would be perfect as well, because these are both the same, or it would be a little bit too flat, which would mean we'd want to try to have it grip even more. And so to have it grip less, not so good. So we didn't manage to fix the sharpness, and we're going to try and see if excellent, the royal us. We're going to try and see whether we can move this a little bit for, oh, there we are, there. Maybe it's that seems better, I don't know. So again, a little bit further down maybe than we were before. Should have room to move down, maybe it's not quite loose on the top here. Yeah. There we go. Okay, we'll try that. So again, the bigger the string, the more movement. In other words, with a small string, a very small change will be a larger proportion, right? Will make a bigger difference. With a really big string, okay, I can feel it as I tighten this one. Of course, the rotation, the righty-tighty movement, is trying to move the bottom this way. So I just want to tighten the bottom a little bit more here. Because again, that's not what we don't want it moving to the left. We want it to stay where it is. Yeah, so with the bigger strings, you have to do more adjustment, right, to have an effect, the same sort of similar effect, because the adjustment is a smaller percentage. Okay, aha! So I think this is looking much better. Let's just take a look at that. I think we're now much more through the center of the string, you can see. Yeah, let's test that out. So again, I think, with any of these strings, if I really try, I can have it twang, but I think I'm much happier with that position now. So the question is, how is the tuning, right? So we'll check this. It's flat because I think we moved this down, right? So the string length might remain the same, but now, it should be sharp, right, if we moved it down. Maybe it just didn't like being moved. Okay, so that's pretty in tune. It's a little bit sharp still. That one's quite sharp as well. Now, we definitely have room on this one to have less grip. You can see, especially with it way over here now, we could be gripping sort of like this much. And I can test, I can see actually that would be perfect. So I could loosen this. The question is, do I have room? Would I have room to loosen this? Maybe. Let's try that, because I don't like this is quite a quite a big angle that we're creating. I think it's engaging a little bit more than I would like, which is potentially going to make the length, the longevity of the string be less. Again, these, what is this? This is third octave, the very last third octave. They tend to last pretty well. But okay, so with this, right? Same screw head, and I'm just going to push in and turn to the left. I can also do this. This is an easy way to loosen it. Just go like this, push down. That will loosen the pin, loosen the screw. But I want to keep it in this same position just for my reference. So in this case, if it's not too tight, I'm going to push in. I'm going to hold the pin where it is, and I'm going to lefty-loosey. I'm going to see if it will loosen. It doesn't really want to. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I've loosened it. And now I'm going to gently rotate it a little bit. What was it? This way to the right, clockwise. Not much. I'm going to hold it and I'm going to tighten. And we're going to see what effect that has. So get this string back in there. Again, that might have been too much. We'll see, does this actually engage the string and not be too loose? Okay, it's got a good grip. Let's see. So again, every time that you pop the string out, or any time you're testing, check the open string, even if you've just tuned it. That looks good. This one is actually pretty good. Again, as I said, if you only had one set of discs, it's fiddly, but it's very easy to arrive at the correct raising it exactly half a tone, because you got so many options you could work with. The height of the bridge pin, the amount of grip the discs have. It's the real question is when we get down to this sharp. So let's check again. This is good. Yeah, tiny bit flat maybe. Not bad. Almost wanting to be a bit sharp, but let me show it to you. Let me do a quick screen cap here. You can see this starts to get a tiny bit flat as it decays. Sorry. And then not bad. So I think I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to play it, of course, and then test and make sure. So for example, by loosening this one, there's the chance that maybe it doesn't grip tight enough, and I'll hear that as I play it firmly, for example. And again, I think this looks good in terms of not hitting things. Hopefully it doesn't hit things this way either. Looks pretty good. Looks nice and centered. Looks like we got some nice room. I'm hopeful that we have successfully fixed that issue there. So as you can see, it's all a bit fiddly and imprecise in a way, right? That okay, I decided I'm okay with maybe the natural is just a tiny bit too flat, but I'm gonna play around with it and make sure I'm happy with the sound and it not vibrating and hitting the sides, and then maybe I'll go back and what I could do is try to lower the bridge pin a tiny bit more. I don't think I want to try and loosen the grip on this anymore, and again, I think it might be pretty good just like that. But a bit fiddly, but it all makes sense. It's a bit of a puzzle trying to solve that. And I think it's just so good to be able to do this in a pinch if you don't have a technician handy, or even if you have a regular technician, but it's sort of an emergency. You've got a performance coming up, your technician comes every so many months, and you need it to sound good right now. And just, it can be maybe intimidating, but it's not so bad, right? Like it's definitely possible. And again, all you need is a nice little screwdriver. So as I say, I really like this because let's see if we'll focus it all on this. Sort of. No light though. I really like this one because it's got a nice grip, easy to hold, and short, so it's easy to work with. And so something like this is perfect, nothing fancy. And there you go. So thanks for coming along with me, and hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you soon for another episode of Harp Tuesday. Cheers.